so much for the opportunity. I didn't know it would go at the beginning. I thought maybe it would be at the time you discuss it. So I was just reviewing the agenda before tonight, and I was reading the policy on harassment. And I just wanted to share some concerns. I understand there might be some legislative statute that you're trying to meet with language, but you do have a policy 515. It's pretty well written that address these issues as well. But there are some differences in the language that bring some concern to me that they might end up being interpreted in a way that could violate religious freedom or freedom of speech because it's so general in it. To give you an example, so a religious freedom would be that I teach my children that they are not to use pronouns. They are not to identify themselves by pronouns. And they are not to call somebody other than they are. I understand that other people don't believe that. But that is our firmly held belief that, you know, you're born male or female. And so if my child accidentally called somebody, not even intentionally, called somebody the wrong thing, according to this policy language, that could be interpreted as harassment and all kinds of things. So I just see a way, like, I'm totally supportive in creating a great place for everybody, but I just think we have to be cautious that it's not going to violate religious freedoms and freedom of speech. An example of a violation of freedom of speech, I recently learned from one of my kids in high school that a word that I regularly use that I think is a regular word is apparently on the don't use list. So I learned that from my high school children, which is the word means slow. It's in the dictionary. It literally, you know, slows down fires. And I did not realize, no, you cannot control my speech, Mr. Raphael. So you cannot. I can use the word, okay? So this is one of those violations of freedom of speech that really concern me. So I really think there needs to be a lot more caution placed on specific parameters so that you respect those other constitutional rights. Thank you. Videotaping, Kate. It's also that's wonderful.
All right, student achievement. Student report, Forsyth Area High School Student Council.
Absolutely not. That is the message that voters sent last week when they decided to eject representatives from the State House and send Donald Trump into the White House. And rather than recognizing the will of the people and deciding to restore Republicans to the State House, Democrats have embarked on an effort of retaliation and retribution to cram through all of the...
Do you have a comment specifically about the legislation? Do you have a comment specifically about the legislation?
This is a bill that's been sitting for 6 months and has done nothing with, but then at the last second you bring it up, you amend it, you think that we don't realize that you tried to ban carry everywhere that had a liquor license, every gas station. If the combined IQ of the individuals who proposed this bill didn't catch that 6 months ago, then they shouldn't be serving as legislatures. Now, to the bill itself. This is supposed to be about keeping people safe because people with CPLs are out there committing so much violence in the Capitol and everywhere else. Well, thankfully, the Michigan State Police actually compiles a CPL report every single year. And I can tell you that I have the stats right here, and the crime rate of CPL holders in the state of Michigan is 0.002%. That is half as much as police officers. Now, in terms of specifically in this Capitol, the only documented incident of somebody being shot or killed took place in 1997, by the New York Times cataloged it, when two Michigan State police officers shot and killed each other because one of them, a female, was being bullied because she was fat. I'm not making that up. So that's the only time that quote-unquote gun violence has ever taken place within this building. But rather than banning police officers from carrying in the Capitol, we're going to flip it on its head, give them impunity to carry, but ban civilians from carrying in the Capitol. And that's just totally ridiculous. It contradicts literally what's happened in history. Now, with respect to what this legislation and who it targets, let's be very clear. This is legislation that targets white people. It is racial, because the people who carry in the Capitol are primarily white, people who have CPLs are primarily white, and this is retaliation for the only demographic that overwhelmingly voted to support Donald Trump. And that is why it is being taken out on us, because You don't like us, and that's how it is. If we want to address gun violence, we would be focusing on the people who bring guns into communities and shoot people, like where I live in Detroit and where you represent, Stephanie Chang, which are overwhelmingly 13 to 34-year-old sub-Saharan African. Those are the people who...
Move on.
I am testifying.
Thank you for your
I'm not timed
testimony.
out.
Yep, and I am the chair, and I have gavelled you down. So are there any questions from committee members?
Armed guards remove me. Armed men with guns remove me.
Are there any questions from committee members?
Oh, I have.
Senator Runstead.
Yeah, did I just hear you call a group of people by some epithet?
Yes.
And number two, the idea that this is aimed at white people. I know so many different groups from minority communities that are armed, that carry concealed. It's just a ridiculous argument.
Senator Johnson.
The term that you used is inappropriate, and it will not get you anywhere in this legislature.
Madam Clerk, could you read in the cards?
Regarding Senate Bills 857, 858, Patrick White representing himself opposed, and he provided written testimony.